So good evening and welcome to this edition of the Bliss Catchers. I can see a whole lot of new people over here, and thank you so much. And that explains everything. So look at the love that people have for Sujatha and Maitreyi. Thank you so much. This is a very interesting opportunity that we have created at Odyssey. So I must thank Team Odyssey for giving us this venue and all the support for holding this month on month. For those of you who are not aware, this is the 15th month that we're doing this, and it's in its second season, the second year. And there's a little background to why we started doing this, and at the cost of my old friends here, Geeta and Manichandra, Ramesh, Badri, and several others who are regulars, I still have to go over why we do it, so please bear with me. The Bliss Catchers as an idea, as a concept, struck Vani and me, my wife Vani and me, when we were dealing with our own demons, our own catharsis. The business that we ran went bankrupt, and there were several temptations to take the easy route towards earning money. And the logic that Vani and I employed was what gave us the sense of purpose to literally follow our bliss. The logic was very simple. Anyway, we've lost everything in life. Everything material is gone. And we can work for profits, money, and we can work for joy. Now, whatever on the material side, on the profit side, on the money side, everything is gone. So let's work for joy. And let's not only try to be successful, yes, we must turn things around and we must be successful, let's try and be useful. And so we remain deeply rooted to our bliss. And if you ask us what is our bliss is to remind people that they can help themselves to happiness, right up over there above me. And that's our bliss, that's what gives us bliss. And for many years now, I've been intrigued both as a practitioner and as a fan of Joseph Campbell's philosophy of Follow Your Bliss. The first time I read his quotation, his statement, that if you follow your bliss, doors will open where only walls exist, and only you will be able to see those doors. That entire thought is so powerful when you can actualize it, when you can see it. And that comes from letting go and following what you deeply believe in and love. So that's really what led us to start this conversation series. It's actually a conversation that the three of us are going to have on what does it mean to do what you love doing, and what can we all learn from their stories. So the Bliss Catchers was born with this philosophy, with this inspiring perspective that Joseph Campbell left for all of us to partake. And we've been following it for as long as started in Jan 2015, and have been following it all the way here. This is an interesting moment to pop a question and turn the format a little bit. So normally we have a tradition of having a couple of quiz questions and a couple of people winning these beautiful mugs over here. So I'm going to actually that normally comes at the end of the conversation, but today we'll change the story a little bit, the screenplay a little bit, and I'm going to pop the quiz question up front. So the first quiz question comes up right now, and this might be more relevant to the old-timers than to the newcomers. Nevertheless, here comes the question, and you could win your beautiful Bliss Catcher mug by answering this question right. Badri, Ramesh, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, what is so unique about today's Bliss Catcher event, Bliss Catcher moment? What is so unique?
Both the guests are women?
Who said that? Who said that? Arun? Yeah, fantastic. Both the guests are women.
Both the guests are beautiful.
So the inference is clearly a reality that I always accepted, but I am not. Thank you. So Arun, please pick up your mug. Can we give Arun a big round of applause? Yeah. So Arun gets his Bliss Catcher mug. So yes, that is a fact that for the first time in over 15 months, we have two...
But Ramesh, you get not a mug, only a hug for that.
We have two beautiful women. The first time we've had two women as our guests. We've had couples, we've had men, we have men and women, but we've never had two women as my guests. So I'm feeling all good and glorious, right? Sitting with you. Sitting with you. There's another reason why this Bliss Catcher is special. This is the first time we've had a bloomer in our creative. So, but then there's a learning with every mistake we make. So if you will just pause and look at Joseph Campbell's, and I seek his forgiveness wherever he is, okay, for the bloomer. That quote should actually read, "Your sacred space is where you can find yourself again and again." And it instead reads, "Your scared space is when you can find yourself again and again." Yeah, so I'm coming to that point. Thank you, Sujatha. Yeah, I'm coming to that point. So if we take away Joseph Campbell and put, let's say, AVIS Viswanathan, because I'm the creator of that mistake, okay? Over there. If we were to put my name over there, the mistake, the wrong statement is actually true, and that is the reason why we find ourselves unhappy, because in our scared space, we keep, kind of stumbling and struggling around all the time. And it's only when you break out of that space and come into the open and feel the power of the universal energy guiding you that you can find true happiness. There's this American preacher, Douglas Houghton, who said, "Materialism is the only distraction from true bliss." Materialism is the only distraction from true bliss. And that is the reason why many of us get stuck in that scared space. There is a herd mentality that much of the world follows, and that herd mentality is, how much am I earning, and what can I do to earn more? Nothing wrong with money. When you must ask Vani and me, we know what it is to live without money. We know the pain of that. So nothing wrong with earning money, but if you're going to forsake your inner joy for that, then it's very dangerous, because life is slipping away and you're going to miss it. So we have today two wonderful people as our guests. It took us almost a year to schedule Maitreyi's presence on the Bliss Catchers. We've been talking to her for about a year. She spends half her time in Vancouver, and so we had to and the Bliss Catcher series also requires a certain amount of curation prior to bringing our guests here. So syncing all of that, finding the right compatible co-guest over here took some time. So thank you, Maitreyi, for finally making it. And Sujatha, this would not have happened at all with you being here. Would not have happened at all had it not been for the fact that we were stuck at a very boring party, all of us. And the three of us found, me, Sujatha, Pani, and of course Deva was there. We found our sacred space, we can call it. Okay? And I generally started talking to Sujatha saying, "Hey, what are you doing? And how do you do what you do?" And that story over a drink kind of made me think, saying, "Hey, that's a Bliss Catcher." And promptly the next morning we reached out to Sujatha and then we connected. So thank you, Sujatha, for being here. So ladies and gentlemen, the way we're going to structure this is we started at 7:05. We'll end this conversation at 8:35. And the first part of it will be a conversation that I will have with my two guests. And then we'll pick up from there and throw some time to the audience where you can ask the guests some questions. As they speak, and if I have some perspectives to share, I'll keep coming in. So, are we all set? Good to start? Okay. So, Maitreyi, Sujatha, who do I start with?
Close your eyes and pick one. Yeah,
I don't need to close my eyes. I'm actually going to start with Sujatha. Okay. So, Sujatha, go back to that time. There are a lot of questions coming, so this is not the only one.
So go back to time, my...
Yeah, so go back in time
my
to...
circle is circling in my
Go back to time when you were running back from school to catch Kamal Hassan shooting for Vikram, okay? And tell us about that moment. What happened that made you realize that this is the space that you want to be in and follow, okay? So was it a eureka moment, or from there did it grow organically on you? So I want you to go back to that time, okay? So, yeah, you'll have to turn it on.
After a long time, I'm actually holding the mic since Radio Machine.
Okay.
So, good evening, everybody. To go back to your question is like to go back in time. Yes, I knew that I wanted to be in the space of movies ever since I was, I think, 5 years old. My parents are here. They will vouch for the fact that I was forever either dancing to the songs on TV or singing the songs that I heard on radio, or only chatting or catching up on films and film stars, because our household itself was one brimming with a lot of music, dance, movies, everything in the joint family in Mylapore. But that moment was because when my mother is very strict, she didn't let me take a holiday off to actually be on the spot of the shooting. That the whole entire stretch that Kamal sir was there for Vikram. So I had to go to school. But in the lunch break, I came back with a couple of my friends, and I insisted that I must go and say hello to the Kamal Hassan, and I remember him telling me, no, studies are important, you have to go back to school, and I'm like, but you are here, you didn't go to school. So that is what I told him. So I remember being not scared at that age. I wish I was like that forever, I mean even till now in life, but no, I mean life puts you through a lot more journeys. But at that point, I was always interested in that space of cinema, or creativity, storytelling, production, all that. But I didn't know that there was a structured, organic path to it. That came much later.
We'll come to that, but
yes.
I want to dwell more on that moment again.
Right.
I have another question. So when you say that you went out of sheer love for Kamal Hassan, who doesn't love Kamal Hassan? It's like that, right? So he was shooting next to
I would have gone even if it was Rajnikant, so that doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah.
So my question is, was it just infatuation with a film star,
No.
or was it a deep interest in a medium?
In the process of shooting, the number of people, where was the camera placed, what is happening, how do they make these moving images that we see on TV or on the screen? That curiosity.
And what grade were you in at that time?
I think you want to know how old I am? I'm not telling you.
No, I'm just.
No, I think the film was Vikram, so I'm sure everybody 1985. So yeah, I was in the 7th or 8th grade. Right?
So they all got your age now. They all got your age now.
Yeah, that's okay.
Please tweet her age.
Yeah. Please.
So it was the curiosity to engage with the medium, to understand the medium.
Also, but it was more to do something that was a very something out of school. Something that gave me a reason to come away from school when school was in progress. Basically, class kattadi kardila. I liked it a lot. But I couldn't do it openly at that point. But here was a reason. I mean, this huge star was shooting in our home premises, and he was staying in our house and, doing, singing, dancing, fighting, whatever. I didn't even know what was being shot at the time. I saw it much later on screen. But that the very aspect of coming out of school and doing something that was not meant for me to do, I liked, to be very honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there was that, what shall I say, the age-driven excitement of cutting school, bunking school kind of stuff. But I think I'd like to explore that point about the medium and the way the medium engaged you. And this is, I think, something where I'd like to pause and share with people. Many people ask, so how do I know what is my bliss? What's driving my inner joy? And it's not something that you consciously go and decide that this is it, this is it, this is it. Some things that you do will want you to engage more, will invite you to engage more. And especially people like Yuki sitting over here, young filmmakers in the making, that's how it starts. Where she didn't say it was Kamal Hassan. She said it could have been Rajnikant, it could have been somebody else. The important point is that the medium excited her, the process of filmmaking. And I think that's where you pick up your first early signs that something is more engaging than the normal. And that's where the journey of exploration really starts. So thank you Sujatha for bringing that up. Thank you. So let's go to Maitreyi now. And so they have very divergent stories if you look at it. So Maitreyi did visual communication, set up an agency, made films, right? Ad production house, sorry, and made films, and then decided to completely move away from all of that. Whereas Sujatha, interestingly, did a BCom and decided not to pursue an MBA then. We'll come to your MBA very shortly. We're not going to let you go without answering that, okay? So, she gave up the traditional route of, possibly chartered accountant, Maths, okay. So that was simple, okay. So, but she moved into the creative line and decided to, pursue creative production, and get into, before that, with radio jockeying and all of that. So they have very interesting, divergent paths, and that makes this conversation even more exciting. So I'll come to you, Maitreyi. I can see that there's a phenomenal amount of clarity of purpose in you. Okay, I can't picture Maitreyi from being anything else other than Yogacharini Maitreyi. Okay, I can't think of you wearing a hat and sitting in a director's chair and shooting a film. I can't think of you. So, did this clarity emerge early on in life, or did something happen in your life that led you to search for more meaning to life, and did you come to the point of being the practical mystic that you are today? Yes, you need to turn around.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Yeah, so I would say my journey has been in spurts. It was not like a one-time event. So when I was younger, my grandfather had influenced me a lot. But, I mean, when you're younger, you don't see the value of it. Because I was in that bubble, so I didn't realize that what he gave me was really special. So he was a spiritual scientist. So he would expose me to books like The Secret Life of Plants, where plants were attached to something like a lie detector. And the minute somebody with a negative thought walked towards the plant, then the plant's graph, that graph would go really crazy. So which means if somebody was planning to hurt the plant. Then he said if somebody had the thought, I'm going to water you or take care of you, then the graph was smooth. So he made me think about how my thoughts not only influence myself but others. And it could create so much fear in others. So that, like that, many things he exposed me to. He was a big Carl Sagan fan, Cosmos, all of that. So as I was growing up, my worldview was limited to his and a few other relatives' dramas. So when I went out into the advertising world, it was something exciting, creative, and all of that. So even at that point, there was another learning curve. So the first learning curve was with my grandfather. The second was going out into the big bad world, so to speak, and learning how to set boundaries. So at that point, the second learning curve came. So when I was past college, when I finished college, I was like, I need to smarten up to face this world. So I went again into an ashram and I studied. So I got my teacher's training certification, and though I was in advertising, I was teaching. But that was not something that was very propagated, or it wasn't my profession. And then the third step, when I completely kind of left advertising, I won't say completely, now also I Sometimes I work on women-centric films in the dialogue or the script writing. I don't actually sit on the production. So I would say to a big part I liked it. That happened when I was running my production house. So it was with a partner and it was doing really well. But my lifestyle was really bad. I mean, at that point I was having a pretty clean lifestyle. But I was a workaholic. And I mean, Sujatha know the timelines. You know, you're working 3, 4, 5 nights without going to sleep because everything is yesterday's work. You know, the deadlines are yesterday. So I burnt out. And at that age, I was in my early 20s, I was doing well, I was getting Hat Club awards, but I was really not feeling the same yogic thing, centered, grounded, in alignment. I was not feeling that. So I said, I have to make a choice now. I can't be grappling or grabbing everything. Of course, I can be good at it and it can give me a lot of joy. But at some point when I'm constantly trying to please the client, that's not going to work. So that was my biggest step. Where when I was about 25, I decided to leave the production house. I told my business partner also that, you know, I'm taking a break. He said, why are you going, blah, blah, blah. It was a big thing. And I said, no, I really need to do this for myself. And then I went much deeper into it. I went and studied for 6 months, and for 6 years I was an Acharini in the ashram. So that was my biggest step. But yes, different stages, it was different influences and
so to kind of summarize it, it would have been a 10 to 12 year journey to reach that point of 25 when you decided to completely get out of.
Yeah, almost a 20-year journey, I would say.
20 year journey.
Yeah, because it started really young with the influence of my grandfather.
Were you at any time, when you take a decision at 25 something, yeah, there is a lot of you know, aggression in us at that time, at that age. Yeah. There is a greater level of fearlessness than there would be now, right?
Right.
Risk taking is something.
As you get older, you're like, oh God.
Yeah, I know. We all come down that curve. You know, we don't want to take that risk. So, did you at that time at all face any questions related to everyday existence, money, insecurity driven by economic you know, factors? Did you have to counter those demons at all?
To a certain extent, yes, because I didn't have a flamboyant lifestyle, so my needs were pretty less. So in the ashram, I just made a mental calculation. I needed a cycle, I needed to go around Pondicherry, I needed basic living expenses, and through the years I was anyway doing seva. So I was not getting paid, but at the same time I was not spending much either. So from that perspective, yes, there was economics, but I also in my head decided on a lifestyle that didn't demand a lot of economics.
Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah. So you balanced it out with some logical thinking.
Yeah, and I said, okay, this is what I need. And post that, when I needed it, I started training and all of that. So
would it be right to say that your decision to embrace yoga, you know, and this and holistic living, okay? I think we used that line very powerfully. You loved life and you wanted to live it well, right?
Yeah, yes.
So holistic living, when you embraced it, you were moving away from a deep sense of unhappiness with the life that you were leading, right?
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
And you reasoned things out well with you from the economic point of view.
Yes.
So I think the key point I'd like to bring to everyone's understanding here is when you're following something by way of a career and you're just habituated to a, you know, people even call it a comfort zone, but you're habituated to a way of thinking, living and working, and that if it is causing you unhappiness, it is time for you to pause and reflect and not to necessarily sit and complain about it. I think many of us miss the opportunity to make changes to our life because we complain a lot. And if you're unhappy with the situation, face it, sit down and reason with it. And I think it's not about Maitreyi here, but I think it's if anybody can sit down and say, how much do I need? And what do I need? Then I think our requirements will be far, far fewer than what we think of them to be today. So if you can look at your needs and take a need-based economic decision to move away from what's causing you unhappiness, there is a way out to move in the direction of your bliss, to move in the direction of your inner joy. That's the big takeaway from what you just shared. I'll go back to Sujatha. For you in life, whatever happened after that great afternoon when you were in the 8th grade, okay? Whatever happened in life has been basically, in a way, it's like one thing led to another. It was all unplanned, as you say, right? Whether it was meeting Shivaji Ganeshan and writing or getting into Radio Mirchi and all of that. At any point, when you finally decided to quit the Radio Mirchi job, okay, and move into an entrepreneurial role, how did you deal with it? And is entrepreneurship something that you ever thought you would get into in your life? How did you deal with this whole idea of starting off on your own? That would have been the big shift for you, just as it was a big shift for her. So talk to us about that time and what kind of reasoning went in there, or did anything go in at all?
I always wanted to be my own boss, be a decision maker. So whether it was listening to a client, but still the decision to give a creative idea would have to be mine or my team's. I liked that aspect of within me. I discovered that I was good at it thanks to being in Maitreyi. When they sent me to Hyderabad to set up the station there, that was a very, very important learning curve in my career, where I walked in as one person, and right from setting up the service apartment to setting up the office, recruiting talent, training them, and fixing the product, and coming out with something called a very tangible, it was really creating something where there was nothing. And it was possible managing the top management as well as new talents that had just come on board in a city which was new to the concept of FM radio, or the fact that somebody can give them a job just for, talking. So to be, and in a language which I only understood at that point, though I told everybody that I spoke Telugu because I just wanted the experience. So I took the initiative to tell my boss that I wanted to go because I could speak the language. And at that time, they didn't have anybody else who knew this, the Telugu language. And thanks to all the films that I had seen, the language was very familiar to my ears. But that's all. I went there and then, learned it on the job. And that was very helpful. The fact that I knew their cinema, that I knew their music, made me come closer to the team that we were hiring. They were very surprised at how somebody from Tamil Nadu could come and, give them gyan on their, films and songs and stuff like that. So that was a very important part of my career. So that, the corporate way of conducting a creative process or coming out with a product within the realm of limitations. Because see, I was, before Radio Mirchi, worked with Kamal sir. So it is providence that I met Kamal sir when I was a little girl. And I worked with him on a couple of films or more, I think. And it was a very largely creative space. It's like a huge canvas being in cinema. Whereas working for an organization is not like that. It's very methodical. There is a time that you came, that you go to work, and then there's a time that you come out of work, and there's a sales team that was headed by my very good friend Vidisha here, and we had to cater product to client, and client have to like whatever we made. And it was the first time I understood that there was more than just an idea that went behind making something very successful. So I learned to work with teams better. I learned to work with bosses better. And after this Hyderabad experience, I decided that enough. I think I'm ready to step out and take the call on my own. So yes, when I was a copywriter itself, when I started off as a copywriter with R.K. Swami and all that, I had wanted to start something on my own. And the step towards ad film production is the first step. I would eventually love to, make movies. So that's how I even got there. So it was in my mind. It just was a matter of time.
See, organizationally, process-wise, operationally, what you say is fantastic. That we all get our grounding through our experiences at work, right?
Yeah.
And we learn things working with teams and organizations. But to become an entrepreneur, to set up a firm of your own, to set up Thinking Hats, is a very, very lonely decision.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what kind of thought process did you go through when you can you walk us through that precise moment, that precise day? I mean, it must have been festering in you that you want to be on your own. But when the decision was it taken like, wow, let me do it, or what did you think about it, talk to 20 people, and then come
I
to that?
spoke to 2 people. One of them is here, Vidisha.
Okay.
She got me my first deal also, my first ad production deal. And I spoke to her and I spoke to Devasena. And I spoke to my parents. And my father...
What did your parents say?
They've always been, very mild. They are very mild people in the sense they are very soft, very caring, loving people. So for them to take bold steps and decisions, my father has been a very, very big support for me. He never stopped me from doing anything, in the sense that, yes, he would voice his concerns, but he would never say, okay, if you like it, you do it. I mean, okay, I'm there for you. So that confidence came because he was also there, he was earning at that time. So I didn't have to really worry about roti, kapra or makan. Even now, we kind of collectively only do it as a family, because as an entrepreneur, the journey is not like how you see it in the movies, where in one song everybody becomes something.
I'll come to that. But let's go back to that time. So you talked to Vidisha, you talked to Devasena, you talked to your parents.
Yeah, I got the deal through Vidisha. So we had one deal in our kitty.
Okay.
So we could produce something and show the world that this is what we have done. So we got that opportunity. That gave me the confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after that, have you ever had to, in the last what?
5 years.
5 years. Have you ever had to think back and say, do I have to go back to work?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
In between, in 2012, I did, park Thinking Hats aside, and I did take up an assignment to be the regional programming head with Reliance, because business was not coming. Because that decision was important for me to take, and time and again, all the HR agencies see my resume on Naukri.com. I still don't have the guts to remove it from there. I sure hope one day I will get the guts to remove it from there. Because, it's very reassuring if you get an HR agency call you and say, do you want this, and this is your CTC, and I'm like, wow, great. So there is some marketability there, which again is a term I learned from Vidisha. I wouldn't have known that something like that exists, but all that, is collective experience. All I would have wanted to do
why
is
did you not, how did you feel working on that Reliance project?
Yeah.
And why did you leave it? Why did you quit?
It was a fabulous stint with Big FM also, because I was managing more than 42 people across languages, which is, see, again I realized languages is something I really love, because as cinema, I love to see cinema in all languages, even in foreign languages with subtitles, and I would love to, if I'm able to recognize a new word in any language, I feel very happy about it. So by the time I came to Reliance, my Malayalam, my Telugu, my Kannada, Hindi of course was second language, and Sanskrit was there. So it was all very cool. So the teams in different states really took to me, and I took to them. So it was good to revamp the whole product. So we were able to make some tangible difference. I quit because of differences with the management.
Okay. Otherwise you would have still continued?
Yes. I not still continued. Probably I would have continued for a couple of years more and then quit.
One more question and I'll come back to summarize what we can pick up from Sujatha's story up until now. If you had not quit Reliance, you wouldn't be sitting here.
No.
You wouldn't be in our definition of bliss catcher.
No.
So how do you define that?
Radio space is also a bliss catching space. In the sense, it's also a creative space. It's just that somebody else is paying my salary. So, that was the comforting part of it. But that was also a job.
So my question is more, would you have missed Thinking Hats?
No. I did not close it. See, some instinct, some calling within me kept me, made me not, I didn't close the bank account. It was all there. It had 10,000 rupees in it, but it was there. So I kept it alive. I knew I would come back to it one day. Just that I didn't know that I would come back to it sooner than I had thought.
Fantastic. I'm glad. So one of the things we don't do at Bliss Catchers is we don't prep up the guests. So they don't know what's coming. I didn't know I was going to ask this question. Okay. And this is the beauty of this conversation. she is so honest. She's so honest. And I want us to understand what Jawaharlal Nehru said long ago. He said the greatest minds go through self-doubt. And it's perfectly all right if you make a choice and you're unsure about the choice. The choices we make with our life are like driving a car in the dark. You throw on the headlights, you can't see the whole stretch of your journey. You can only see as far as the headlights can take you. And then when you reach that point, you see the next stage. It is perfectly fine to go through self-doubt. It is perfectly fine to keep one leg there and one leg here, and yet believe, so that, you know, the most beautiful word she used is the inner calling made her not close the bank account, keep it alive, knowing that she would come back there, and except that she possibly felt that she got back there faster than she really thought she would. And it's a big learning. Thank you for sharing that, Sujatha. Thank you for being honest. It is good to go through self-doubt because that makes you clearer about what you want to do. Even in our case, even through our catharsis, people asked us, so why did you go for a job? Why didn't you take up something that could bring you income? You're so talented. So we didn't want to do things that were not in our core area of joy. So we didn't want to, there was a suggestion saying get into the real estate business. There was a suggestion saying start a placement company because you know all the CEOs and you can poach from one company and feed another company and take money. And there was a suggestion, I even forget what the third suggestion was. There were 3 or 4 suggestions for us.
Amway.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, he's right. It was Amway. Do Amway products, okay? With due respect to Amway, that wasn't something that we truly enjoyed. And I went and kept a job as a global HR head with a company where I had a job where I had the flexibility of being in Chennai but working out of Pune and the rest of the world. And I thoroughly didn't enjoy that experience. So I can relate to you what you're saying, that I didn't enjoy the journey of working with that set of entrepreneurs, and I quit that job. So it is fine to go through these processes to understand ourselves. What is this life if you don't know who you are? And I think that process of understanding is most valuable, irrespective of what steps you take to get to that level of understanding. So thank you, Sujatha, and we'll come back to Maitreyi. Yeah, thank you. I see some people at the back. Would you like to? There are some chairs here. There are some chairs next to Vani. Lokesh, would you like to come, sir? Would you like to come forward? Some of you. Okay. There's one chair here. Thank you. Yeah. So Maitreyi, let's come to you. And so I'm not possibly going to ask you questions that you can even call as deeply personal. Okay. Is it difficult doing what you're doing when you're single and when you're alone? Does it help the process of following your bliss, or does it cause times of deep introspection, loneliness? Do you go through those times?
I think it was different in different phases of my life. Of course, when I was younger, it wasn't, a thought. But then, of course, marriage pressure started.
And how did you deal with that?
I moved country. So at that point, it was, even my own yearning was there for a spiritual partnership. So I was trying to explain to my mother the best I could and say, okay, for them it's like, oh, I want you to settle down. So the same thing with the boy, is he well settled, So it's that.
Is your mom here?
No, she's not.
Okay.
Yeah, she had tomorrow's Easter, so she's gone for,
Okay.
she's converted to Christianity.
Okay.
So she had a church thing to go to this evening. So she was quite, as most Indian mothers are, when you're in your late 20s, she was getting a little apprehensive because here I was sitting in an ashram in my prime, and she was like, oh, that prime age is, you're passing that prime age.
So what kind of conversations did you have with your mom? How did you convince her? Or did you try to convince her at all?
I didn't try to convince her, but I was just sharing all the bad marriage stories that were around. look at this one's marriage, look at that person and our relatives, okay, look at this. So then she started thinking about it. And even her own marriage is not the most, there's a lot of love in my family, but they had a dysfunctional marriage. So I said, is this how you really want me to end up? Because I don't want to take a very quick decision based on society or to please you or, to please the world. So then she also started, she's quite an intelligent woman, so she did start thinking about it. And she's very prayerful. So I said, why don't you pray? Instead of telling me, pray for the right person to come. She's still praying. That's right.
But seriously, you moved country for that reason, or was there another reason?
Not just that.
Okay.
One of the reasons was I've always wanted to be in another place and have a home away from home. Because all my life I've lived home, not for university or school. Many of them, at least some of them have had the opportunity to live away from home. And for me, I wanted to create my own structure. Whereas here I'm living with my parents, and the minute I knew I was not going to get married, I'm like stuck with them for life, which is not a bad thing. But I also wanted to have the experience of creating or being in my own energy, which is what yoga's also, it's a big part of yoga, to understand how it is to be with yourself. And also relish and enjoy being with your energy and seeing where the boundaries are, understanding that. So for me, it was a big exploration. Going to a country where I didn't know anybody. Yeah, and just saying, okay, the universe is going to take care of me. So I was implementing all the things I had learned. In the ashram, it was a cloister, or I would not cloister, it was more protective. So it was a very protective environment. So I'm like, here I am into the world, and how do I apply all the principles I've learned? So it was, for me, my adventure.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm glad you said that, because I was coming to another question. All of us, when we try to do something which is away from the beaten path, and we're progressing, like in my case, it's always been Vani. There is not a moment that passes unless I share with her what I'm feeling and get her, sometimes her validation, sometimes her perspective, sometimes her critique. It helps.
Yeah.
Now, in your case, your mom was, at that point, pressurizing you to get married. So you couldn't go and talk to her. Who formed your ecosystem? How did you stay anchored to your ecosystem and not get seduced by the material world, the world that was there for everyone to see, and you were part of that world? How did you not get seduced? Who helped you in this process?
I would say one is my own sadhana, and beyond that, friends. So I had a lot of good family friends, and the same Vidisha and Satya. Satya actually started off as my student. Then I started sounding off. We became good friends and sounding of things. And he's like, what you're doing is fantastic. So
Satyajit?
No, that's Satyajit also. In fact, interestingly you bring that up, because Anu and I became good friends, and I would sound it off Anu also.
Okay.
So they'd say, my God, what you're doing is great, so just follow your heart. So like that, I had a couple of them who were very, they loved the yoga that I taught, they loved the processes that they learned from me, and also they loved the life that I was aspiring for. So that was, it was reassuring, definitely, to have people around me also, apart from my own sadhana, and I, me, myself,
I think there's a big learning here. I, me, myself is extremely important. Amitabh Bachchan made it very famous, main aur meri tanhai, aksar socha karte hain, so that tanhai is extremely important. That loneliness, tanhai really means loneliness, but being alone with yourself. We have a line that Vani and I use. So you are always in meetings. How about meeting yourself? And most of us miss the opportunity in life because we don't pause to meet ourselves. So I do pick up that. But it's also important, as she said, to create an ecosystem of people. In Sujatha's case, she spoke to Vidisha, she spoke to Deva, she spoke to her parents. In her case, she had a circle of friends that helped her on with the decision, and I think you need to have that. So if Kavita Krishnan had been here, you would have added that. He said it so beautifully the last time when he was our guest. He said, I never used to hang out with people who did not believe in what I was doing. So he made a conscious choice to stay away from the naysayers. And if naysayers had their way, many things would be, impossible in this world, would not have been possible in this world. So I think the two important learnings there are have that conversation with yourself and create an ecosystem around you. Now I go back to Maitreyi. Running your own enterprise, okay? It's also an enterprise. It's an enterprise that serves more than it profits, okay? But it's still an enterprise. It's an organization, and in every sense of the word, it's an entrepreneurial venture, okay? So you must be having the upheavals that all entrepreneurs have to face, and most of it has got to do with keeping the nuts and bolts going, the money coming in, and the deep sense of purpose that you have makes it probably easier to face those challenges. But how do you deal with that? Do you think you have developed that acumen over a period of time, or do you have somebody to look after it for you and you concentrate only on the big picture in terms of inspiring people to holistic living?
I wish I had it. I wish I could just look at the big picture. I wish, not pretending. That's my next sankalpa for the universe. I would say I developed it across time. It was not something I had envisioned, or I didn't want to be a business person, but to enable what I was doing, I had to become that. So I was working for somebody, it just would have died out. So I think it came out of necessity. And also when I went to Canada, I had to teach, the yoga that I love. But when I say yoga, again, it's so generic. Because when I went to the West, I met a lot of studio owners. And when they said yoga, it's more like a aerobic class. It's like a set of practices that you did there. So first I thought, maybe I'm new to this country, let me get associated with the studio. But because their expectations were for me to do a boot camp, I said, no. Organically, a group of students did gather around me with the, the classes, with the many years. It has been increasing, touch wood on that and grace. So yes, I would say it was, in the beginning it was not, something I had just said, okay, I'm just going to do it on my own. I did go meet people thinking that would be an option.
Somebody to
look after it, or even, give me a regular salary, because it's expensive. If you look in Vancouver, it's one of the most expensive cities in the world. It's the most livable, but it's also the most expensive. So I thought, that will give me a certain sense of security, which all of us are conditioned to, look for. But over the years I said, okay, yeah, I just have to drop that one and, take things. So
did at any point in time, did the challenges of running an organization, between two countries, such diversely, different countries, did that at all make you rethink your decision?
No, the going back and forth, not at all. I just felt really blessed to escape the winters there and escape the summers here. So that I didn't rethink at all. It was more as to how can I become better, or what is the learning curve that I need to make the business aspect of it better. So when I started off with the ashram here, I used to come back also, of course, to be with my mother. At that point, I needed more money inflow. So I started training. I said, okay, that's a good way of making money, just doing a one-day workshop instead of 6 months teaching somebody, So this effort to revenue was much more in corporate training. So I got into it by default because I wanted to influence. First it was the intention of wanting to bring this to corporate, so wanting to bring it into the real world. And then I soon realized that, okay, it's also monetarily good for me. So that became one avenue of generating income. As I went along and moving between countries, I realized I couldn't manage it on my own. So there was a HR consultant, actually when I was training for a company, he was the head there. And he was quite intrigued by me. So he kept asking, how did you take this decision at a young age to become an entrepreneur? I've been wanting to start my own consultancy and, So I said, probably I started at an age where I was too young to think about it.
Would you have thought about that now?
I can't, I would say I would have, definitely.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
I think if you believe in something, that's I would have been surprised if you had said no.
Yeah.
So I would have been. Yeah, it does seem scary when you look at yourself 20 years down the line and look at the choices you made, and you ask yourself, would I have made those choices now? And if you can answer yes to it, then you are answering yes to your bliss. So that's the power of what what gives you joy. One point I want to pick up from her is about the economics of running an enterprise and finding your way to do it. I think we all try to look for the big picture in terms of wanting to do what we love doing. And we think that there are easy solutions available for somebody else to do the nuts and bolts, the dirty work. And let me tell you honestly, having led a large team across 6 cities, 42 people, looking for chief operating officers and chief financial officers and accountants and HR people to manage things that we don't like doing, let me tell you that it doesn't always happen like that. You are not going to get the right people. I think if you look at just a couple of bliss catchers, let me give you examples. The success of A.R. Rahman, if you were to take him as a bliss catcher, okay? The success of A.R. Rahman is not just the fact that he makes fantastic music. The success of A.R. Rahman is also that he makes fantastic music and makes business sense out of it. So it's perfectly all right to follow your bliss and want to make your economic engine work. Take Sachin Tendulkar for example. Follows his bliss, followed his bliss, and made an economic success out of it. So you have to have that sense of acumen. Sometimes you tend to develop it over time. You stumble, you fall, you make a few mistakes, but you'll eventually get there. I'll move to Sujatha with a similar question. 2 questions here. When you move from film to from the entertainment space to the art space, first of all, is there a disconnect? Didn't people tell you, are you going all over the place? A. B. As an art curator and as a person who owns an art gallery now, it's such a beautiful gallery, you should set up a time and go visit her gallery in Mandavati. What are the challenges of running an enterprise? How do you deal with your, do you have an Excel sheet where sometimes it shows minus?
My Excel sheets are my friends, they make the Excel sheets. I just struggle my way through understanding the Excel sheets. But the art gallery actually is more greater calling than my films, my love for cinema. Art is something, art and history, I should have actually studied it as my, looking back, I wish if I were my own child, I would have probably asked her to pursue history, arts and visual communication as a course, if something was like that was available. So art was like more of a calling. I always saw to it that even as a journalist and being in production also, I interacted the most with art directors, artists, cinematographers, and directors, that variety. So obviously, when I knew a couple of artists in the city, little more than a couple, and I wanted to just talk to 2 or 3 of them and put up something, on the walls of my office space. That too, which I was just adding on, the month that I would have some extra money, I would buy a dining table. The month that I did not have anything, it would all just be the same. I'd just be happy I'm able to pay the rent. So it was going, 1 month like this, 1 month like that. But we reached a stage where I spoke to 3 artists and they said, we'll give you new works for 2014. And then one of them spoke to 2 other artists, people whom I did not know personally, but whose works I knew of. So suddenly I had 5 artists with me. 5 became 8. 8 became 9. The 9 became 11 today. So we have about 11 artists, and I have access to all of the Chennai weekend artists. A couple of them are here as well, Mr. Ganpati and Balaji Venugopal. Their works are so brilliant, and I have the access. I'm just happy that I can be a platform. And I think my sincerity, even if I may say so myself, comes through when I speak to an artist, because I'm just so glad to be able to not understand the painting but appreciate it. You don't have to understand art, you just have to be able to appreciate the beauty, and artists and writers are the timekeepers of our generation, of our time, and without them, we'll be left with no record of the times that we are living in. So I think it's a very, very important thing to curate anybody who's creative, a creative mind or a creative writing or a piece of creative art, whatever it is, in whatever form, sculptures, paintings. So I think I always wanted a place like that where I could go into work. So I was able to create something. This is possibly the first step towards that, to have a gallery in my production office space. So that's how
like marrying both the worlds that you love.
No, to answer your first question, I do not see a difference at all. For me, both are the one and the same. My approach to both
are you often
businesses.
told, or have you ever been told that you lack focus?
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
One of my bosses, my first key appraisal and all that was like, you lack focus, you're like all over the place. I didn't mind it too much. It's his perception of me. I didn't look at myself as lacking focus. In fact, I'm too focused, too driven, and too aggressive. And you can just go to the other side of the coin, flip it, and you'll only see somebody who has been able to hold on, hang on to two businesses. Despite a lot of things, there are a lot of months that nothing happens, and you still have to keep your spirit up. And I have a very good set of friends and family that help me keep my spirit up as well. So that is very important to be an entrepreneur.
That's fantastic. I think I'll pick up that point and amplify it. And I have another question on focus, and I'll come back to you. But the point I want to amplify is very simple. Andy Grove, actually, who passed away earlier this week, of Intel, made this line famous. So it's not an original line. He said that in life, you've got to keep walking one step at a time. You don't know which pebble is going to trip you over next. So when she said that, there are months when nothing is happening, and then you get something, and then you buy a dining table, or then you get something for your office, and then there are months that you get a little extra and you do something more to build on the business. I think that's the only way to go about it. Whatever you're trying to do, I think Vinod there will relate to, last week we had a conversation on, he's a photographer, and should I invest in an equipment and wait for the business to come? And I said, precisely follow this route of taking one step at a time and not trying to, expect everything to happen. And there will be times when nothing will happen. And Vani and I have been through times, and we're still going through times when nothing really happens according to our plan. It just gets, we put a plan out there, and we go to market with the plan, and it all gets shredded and gets thrown apart. So you have to hang in there and believe in yourself, and that's an important part of this journey called Following Your Bliss. So thank you, Sujatha, for that. But let me come back to the point about focus. Is it wrong to have multiple areas of interest that make you happy? Have you ever felt that it is wrong to be pursuing so many things?
No. Cinema itself is a multi-focus or multi-core competency. One film has got that many core competencies to make that one film happen. There are so many departments that have to come together to make that one product work. So obviously, and there's one director who has to approve of 7 or 8 other departments to make that one decision, creative decision, work. And there is again the director's call to ensure that all the heads of department follow his vision of the film. So which means a director is a bit of a musician, a producer is a bit of a scriptwriter. We are all bits of everything. An executive producer especially is somebody who is 50% creative and 50% execution. So I think if somebody does not have a core competency to, so to speak, because this word and phrase I've heard all my life, what is your core competency? I said nothing, so yes, so become a producer. Because at least you will know that you have that many more core competencies. You can judge on music, you can have an opinion on script, you will have an opinion on acting, you will say that set is not nice, you can have opinions, and obviously not as flippantly as I'm saying it right now. You need to have constructive opinions. Opinions that make a change to the product for the better, because it is in a sense a lot of people's money and time and effort that go into making a film. So I saw myself as somebody like that. I can do costumes for a film. I have done that for a Kamal Hassan film nonetheless. So, and 2 of them at that. So it is not something that I cannot do, but I saw myself doing much more than costume designing. So I saw myself as a script assistant. Now much more than that, I saw myself as somebody who can execute a production. So right now it's come to that point. In the day I'll be able to mobilize funds and fix on a project and execute it, I'll be a producer. So I know that.
As in you'll make a film yourself?
Yes, yes.
Awesome, that was one of my questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that upfront. Good point here. Last year when we were doing Bliss Catchers, we were often asked, why does your series only look at people who have taken like Maitreyi, for example, taken a very clear, concrete decision to leave a particular line of work and choose what gives them joy and pursue that at any cost. So the whole of last year we really looked at people with very strong, unusual career choices. And this year we decided to expand our focus and look at people that have had the courage to do a few things that give them joy. And Sujatha is one of those people. And let me tell you, the key operative word here is, are you happy? If you're happy, do it. Because you have only this life. And if you're happy having an art gallery, if you're happy being a line producer, if you're happy being a scriptwriter, if you're happy doing an MBA, do it. You know, because
right now I don't know if I can do it, but yes, I am in the process.
It is in the process. So at this ripe age, Sujatha Narayanan has decided to do her MBA. So that
it's an opportunity that's given for similar, people like me. So
no, definitely no. It's a very courageous decision to pursue an academic learning opportunity when you are vested with an entrepreneur's responsibility. It's a difficult
right. It is an
choice.
entrepreneurial MBA program, so it kind of came to be because I was an entrepreneur. So everything goes back to
having chosen
to be one.
And that's what Joseph Campbell said. You follow your bliss and doors will open. So
right. And only I could see those doors. I'm hoping the world can also see it now.
Fantastic. So I'm actually going to ask you a couple of more questions, but I think we'll move to the audience now. And is there somebody with the mics? Yeah. So questions for Maitreyi and Sujatha, please. Any questions? Yes, Rajkumar.
I come to derive something from this program. I thought I will just put a question to Sujatha. I'm sure a contented mind can lead to bliss. But there are some things in a quest for bliss which is more personal. Don't be shirk your responsibilities as a breadwinner, as a husband, as a daddy, the various roles that you play in society. Is it possible to be responsible and seek bliss both at the same time?
I have a definition of bliss. For me, bliss is not a state that, I see myself on top of a lotus and, the spotlight falling on my head. No, that is not bliss. Bliss is the ability to go out there and do something outside of your comfort zone, but that which gives you the comfort. I mean, in this audience, I know a few of my friends who are here who have chosen to follow their bliss and very, very hard decisions at that, to be the person that they are today, to be running an enterprise, to be running a household, to be, a wife, a daughter, a mother, and, so on and so forth, an entrepreneur, a manager. All those different roles in culmination forms your bliss. And it is important to have a few people around us, in the name of, we call them family and friends, who can support us in this journey to bliss. That's what you need that, but despite all of that, inner courage is very important to be an entrepreneur. You need to have that will to ensure that, okay, but also the business decision that, okay, for the next 6 months am I covered, or for the next 1 year am I covered, and if you are, take that step.
I think she's answered it so well. I fully see the value of her definition of bliss completely. It is not a state. It is a state of being. It's present continuous. Yeah. It's how you feel about doing certain things in your life. And your question is a very important question, because are you being irresponsible towards your duties and shirking them while following your bliss. So is it a selfish act to follow your bliss? And my answer is no. It's the oxygen mask theory that they teach you in an airplane. Wear your oxygen mask first and then help the next passenger. So unless you are happy, how can you have a happy home? So, you know, in Hindi, I think it's very powerful. कई लोग घुट के मर रहे हैं. You know, they're choking and kind of being stifled in this earning a living syndrome. They're all on this treadmill trying to earn a living, and they're missing out on life because life is oozing away, drop by drop. As Omar Khayyam said, drop by drop, leaf by leaf, life is oozing away, and you're losing your life trying to live for someone else all the time. So if you're unhappy, it's time to sit back and review your decision. I think Gautam Vasudev Menon, since we are here on films, Gautam Vasudev Menon's Vinnai Thandi Varuvaya comes to my mind. You know, where there's this character played by Ganesh who says, "Inge enna solludhu? Jesse solluda." You know, that I think that is very important. Inge enna solludhu? That is the bliss catcher. You know, that's your bliss catcher awakening. Inge enna solludhu? Because if you follow your head, you are only being conformist. If you follow your heart, you're being a bliss catcher. We'll go to the next question, please. Yes, sir. Okay. You have a question for her?
No. I want to ask you first.
Okay. Okanda, sir. Okanda question.
As a curator of this Bliss Catchers, I would like to know how you chose both of them who have been determined to be a single person only.
Okay.
Coincidence.
I have this beautiful theory about life, which is that if you let go, things will happen on their own. This is what I've learned. So we don't work overtime to choose people of that, with those specifications and criteria. It so happened Abhi Amanjur.
That is first question. Second question to both of them. Do they advocate by their own process of achieving whatever this and other thing, a life partner is going to be a hurdle to them to pass them? Or it cannot be other way, like Mr. Viswanathan and Vani combined together successfully achieved both sufferings, both sailing in a bad shape and coming out of it successfully. What is wrong in that? That is what I'm asking.
Maitreyi answer. I have answered that
I've answered the question at home many times.
Well, I'm so happy he asked that question because I think it's a very pertinent question, and anybody here will be able to relate to it.
I should ask the married women in the crowd. They are the ones who actually should be able to answer.
Yeah, but Maitreyi, first go with your answer.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. You can definitely, follow your bliss with a partner. So like I said, I'm not averse to marriage itself. I'm looking for a partnership like that. So that's the...
She answered for me.
Yeah.
I keep telling
So, and like I said, the wrong partnership can pull you down. So you don't want to, dig a pit and then climb out of it. So,
I would like to qualify I would like to borrow from what Maitreyi said earlier to qualify the word partnership. I think in the journey of life to be happy, you need a spiritual partnership more than a physical partnership. I think Vani and I are not partners because we are married. I think we are staying married because we are partners. So we enjoy the process of stumbling, falling, grieving, crying, getting up, dusting ourselves, pulling each other up. Someday she's down in the dumps, someday I am down in the dumps. So it happens, and I think it's the spiritual partnership. And I think the spiritual partnership, எப்படி அதை டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணோம்னாக்கா ஓஷோ தான் அதை ரொம்ப பிரமாதமாக சொல்லியிருக்காரு. அவர் என்ன சொல்றாரு, ஒரு ரெண்டு பேருக்குள்ள, it's not about gender again. It's not about the relationship of a marriage. It is about the act of companionship. அவர் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காருனாக்கா compassion is the highest level of energy. And அந்த compassion இருக்கணும். That என்னவா இருந்தாலும் you are welcome, because if the choices you make don't change my opinion of you. I think அது இருந்தா தான் that partnership will work.
Friendship to me is the highest
Right.
partnership. So
Right. Thank you for asking that question. Yes sir, next question. Arun? Yeah, there's a question here and the mic needs to come here.
Hi, this is questions to Sujatha. I see a mirror in your personality. So I do many things that's around creativity, and that gives me a lot of happiness. And when you have, this is not really about following your bliss, but about how do you manage your family perspective. So you really don't find time when you have diverse interests, because you immerse yourself in exploring many things, and by which you yourself find an inner joy, but you have a limited time to spend with the people who are around you. Sometimes they believe it's taken for granted, and how do you deal that, especially with your parents? Because I go through that many a times, and recently I had a very turmoil thing with my sister, as in that you are trying to follow whatever that gives you happiness, but you don't care for us. So how do you deal with that?
deal with it on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And deal with it with a lot of humor. And at the end of the day, it's love. I mean, they know that I love them and they love me immensely. So that is what I don't take for granted. I'm there. The word focus actually comes to me when I was listening to your question, because following diverse interests, or doing something that asks a lot out of you, any calling really demands a lot out of you. Herzog, the filmmaker, said it, and Selvaraghavan, the director, quoted it in an interview with me in Radio Mirchi, where he says, your biggest passion will demand the highest sacrifice from you. So if you look at all the success stories around us in this world today, and you go through their interviews and their life, you will know that it's been a lot of struggle, both personally and professionally, where they would have had to give up a lot of things or give in to a lot of things to reach whatever goal wherever they are. And we just evaluate them mostly in terms of successes or failures. But the fact that they were able to have that journey itself is something wonderful. And in terms of family, I kind of focus on what really is important. Many years ago, I decided that attending relatives' functions is not so important for me, but sitting down to...
That's a big problem.
Yeah, it's not important for me. But sitting down to be with my nephew or understanding what his interests is and where his interests lie is extremely important to me. So that is, important to decide where to have the focus. Don't do things... Actually, having a lot of self-love and self-attention and being an entrepreneur will give you a lot more focus on what you need to do with the world outside of you.
Good question and good answer.
If I can make one point to that, I would say one way I've done it is also enlist the people. Now my mother, in fact, when I started teaching, in the beginning she was, she had all these questions and doubts. But later on, she's the one who'll welcome. When I first started off, we were teaching in the terrace of my house. So even Narsi has come, and in the morning when the students come after the class, she actually started making that Sattamav Kanji and all, and a few of them here have had it. So once you enlist and involve them, then they are excited. If they are an outsider, then they are not excited, because they really don't know what the hell is going on in your life. So that's just the point I wanted to make.
I want to make a slightly contrarian point, that there can be a second dimension to this when people will not want to understand you. Whatever effort you do, okay? Whatever effort you do, and the best way to handle those situations, as I have done with my family, is that I'm sorry you don't understand me. I'm sorry you don't believe in what I'm doing. I'm sorry you don't want to understand me, and I've left it there. So you learn detachment that way, and you treat it not with I don't treat it with bitterness anymore. I don't treat it with grief anymore. I don't long for it. I don't yearn for it. And I treat it as an opportunity to understand how detachment can be practiced at the highest level. And you just move on. So I think that's a dimension that not many people have to face. I hope not. It's a difficult situation in life to come to terms with that, but sometimes you have to. You have to. Yes.
Since we've been talking about relationships, I just want to make a comment. I watched this TED video where they said, the people who were found to be really happy across the world, they did a large survey, hundreds of people across countries. And they said the people who were really the happiest were the ones who knew how to manage their relationships. And at the same time, recently I attended a seminar on leadership. And there was a sister called Sister Jayanti from Brahma Kumaris, and she said the biggest cause for stress across the world is the inability to manage relationships. So I think somewhere there's a connection between these two things. And I want to know what the two people sitting there have to say about this. And another question, I'm greedy, I have one more question. People like Viktor Frankl, and a lot of other people have actually paradoxically found their bliss after going through a tragedy or after suffering and struggling in life, right? Now, all of us don't really, necessarily have to go through that kind of an experience to find our bliss. So, how do you think we can help children, actually find their calling at an early stage? Thanks.
Okay, I'll take that second question. Do you want to talk about relationships?
You can take a question, and I have an answer for her, even though I'm not married or I don't have children. I believe in this. I think children, mainly today, when there is competition on television, there's competition outside of it. I mean, either you're competing to be a super singer or you're competing in your classroom. I think it's important to let the child follow their bliss. This word bliss itself is a very childlike word. It's not obviously childish. It's a very elevated sense of happiness. And children have I was happiest when I was a kid. My school life and my growing up years were the happiest for me. I wish all of us in this room were able to say that. And if that experience you can give to a child as a parent, I think that is extremely great. Children need to be, you just need to let them be. If they like studying, if they want to be, like my nephew wants to be an automobile engineer, he was naturally good with studies, like his mother, like my sister. So that is his bliss, he's following that. But what if he were not like that? Then I don't know the answer to it. I'm not giving a hypothetical situation, but whatever he would have wanted to follow in his life, as a family, we must come together and accept and agree and let him be. And then let children be.
That's the responsibility of parents.
Yeah.
That's all is the responsibility of parents.
Yeah.
Maitreyi, you want to add anything?
Yeah, with relationships, at least in my life, I've seen that healthy boundaries for me has worked. So you're looking at, of course, like I said, endless people. But if you can't enlist them, then detach. So it's healthy involvement and healthy detachment as well. So that has worked beautifully in my life. With children, I run a foundation for kids who live in the slums. And that's what we do with them, because there's so much, even though they live in the slums, there's so much of pressure to follow the, parambara thori, which could be becoming a Buddha, or, we work in an area which is highly crime-ridden. So here we're just exposing them to different things and showing them that they have choices. Otherwise, either it'll be just a small, I've gone to all their houses, but the TV will be blaring. So we think we are free, but unfortunately we're being conditioned by that television all the time, as to what is success or what one needs to go to. So I would, for the kids at least, we're taking them out into nature, we're making them exposed to various other arts and management consultants and different things to open their minds. So yes, they have to be led to do whatever they're led to do, but I would say I wouldn't completely agree with it, because they can go on the wrong path when they're completely led to do what they want to do also. So there is a healthy boundary there also in saying, yes, I'll allow you to do whatever you're doing, but within a framework of goodness, exactly. That is very, very important. I've seen that with kids. You need because it's a tender plant. You can't let a goat come and graze that tender plant. So as an adult, I've seen that's my responsibility when I'm working with kids to have that little bit of a boundary around. So that's what I do.
Fantastic answer. I'll come to you for your question. Just want to answer the lady there. On relationships, what I have learned is, if the relating stops, the relationship is dead. Then you're just clinging on to a corpse. So if you don't relate to the other person, could be a spouse, could be a partner, could be a friend, could be a parent, could be a sibling, could be a boss, could be a subordinate. If the relating stops, it's all over. So that's the easiest way to find out whether your relationship is dead or alive. And the point about the children, I think there is a very important understanding that we all need to have, is that we must, I go with Sujatha's point and with Maitreyi's, both the points are very valid. We should just let children be. Let them be and let them do what they like doing, and keep shepherding them and giving them the right values and allow them to make their choices. Now, how do you decide or help your child decide? How does a parent get involved in the child's choice of bliss? And this is where, for people who have already been here would relate to this, because I've talked about this a couple of times. Think of three circles that converge at a point, okay, like a Venn diagram. So circle 1, circle 2, and circle 3. Okay, the first circle is what are you deeply passionate about. The second circle is what are you capable of being world class at, excellence. And third circle, how can you make money? If you take these three circles, passion, excellence, and money, the point where it converges, that point is what is that person's bliss. In other words, it can also be seen as that person's purpose, the raison d'être, the reason for creation. Now, the problem with our society and our educational system is we start with the economic part first. How can you make money? So, bank la nalla vela kedaikudhu, so bank la poidu. Okay? Engineering pannu, so that you can start off as an engineer somewhere, and a lawyer poidu. So there are these herd mentality, and you're part of that herd, you'll be stuck only in one circle. But if you start with passion and work towards excellence, then automatically the economic engine kicks in. So that's how, parents need to engage with their children on helping them make their choices. But don't even try until, when I say child, it took me the age of 35 to find my calling, my bliss. And yes, ma'am, you did say, we went through a catharsis for me to discover that. But you don't need to go through a catharsis. And so there's no need to sit with a 10-year-old and say, will you be the next Sachin Tendulkar, just because he's showing an interest in cricket. My son played cricket, then he played guitar, then he decided to do science, then he decided science is not what he wanted to do economics. Now he says, I want to be a data scientist. I think this is an evolutionary exercise. And it will go on as long as we are alive, as long as life is there. One last question and then we'll do a wrap. Yes, Ramesh. No, actually the lady, Ramesh, can I take the lady?
Yeah, please.
Give the opportunity to the lady. Yeah. I will let you also ask Ramesh. You can have the last word.
Yeah, please on.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to both of you. I'm glad you found your own song, each one of you. It's from my own experience that I talk. Does bliss bring about creative process? Or bliss is the end product? The creative process happens and then bliss comes out of it. And if all this were taken away, would you still be just as blissful as you are when you're in the process of whatever you are achieving? So does bliss come first and then this creative process and the energy just has its own flow? Or it's from your experience, I would like you to say something.
I think it's like the chicken or the egg story. Which comes first? I've not thought about it, but both feed the other. And if you look at the yogic system, I have a structure. Is it on or am I audible? Yeah. So one is from a real experience point, both feed the other. But from a yogic perspective, there are structured methods by which you can tune into your bliss field. So because that was, I would say, a great interest for me, where I didn't want to just be happy, I wanted to be blissful. So happiness can be dependent on X, Y, Z, whereas bliss just is. So what is that bliss and how can I align with it? So that's been my study. Because for me it was of great interest and I love sharing it.
So it is independent of bliss is bliss, that's it. It has nothing.
No, but I'm saying in my own experience, both feed the other.
Okay.
But in the yogic process, everything feeds everything.
Okay.
So there is a system, I don't want to elaborate because he said tell it in a short thing. I could go into the details of it.
Right.
For example, I'm just giving you an example. What you eat on a particular day can align you with the bliss kosha or the anandamaya kosha depending on how consciously you eat it. So, or the emotions, or relationships, or different things. So it's more about being mindful with what you do and also being so immersed in it. And the creative process, that's what it does. If you're excited, you're so immersed in it and that bliss is spontaneous. You're not following a structure or following a tool as with yoga. But I like both. I like the logical tool-based approach and I like the spontaneous approach as well. Thank you. Thanks.
I'd like to just add here that the key word is immersion. I think if you are immersed in what you love doing, and you're immersed with that process, okay, that takes care of everything. The creativity comes in, the things happen in your life, people walk into your life, dots get connected, and life goes on. Life will go on even otherwise, but you would be suffering through it. You'll be struggling through it. So if there is struggle, then you need to sit back and ask yourself, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Now the struggle should never be with the effort. The result, you may struggle with it. Like we're trying to put back our business on track for 8 years now and we have not been successful. So there's a huge struggle with the result. But we're not struggling with the process at all. And that is what bliss can do to you. It can keep you totally immersed in the process. And again, Osho, my favorite, he says, be patient with life. Trust the process of life. He calls patience the fragrance of trust. Nambikkayin narmanam. I hope my Tamil is good. So he says trust the process of life, and I think bliss helps you trust that. Because you're feeling fully joyful irrespective of where you're standing, what kind of circumstance you're dealing with, what pain you're going through. You're not suffering. So it's a like a pizza delivery offer, buy one get one free. Okay. I think in bliss, if you buy bliss, if you are able to engage with your bliss, then everything comes free. Everything else is taken care of. Ramesh, last question. You have exactly 30 seconds and we have 30 seconds to answer it before I do a wrap.
Sounds like an RJ lead.
Namaskaram. I think the first 15 seconds for telling that question get the audio on the Mr. Narayanan,
And I love my father, I do not ask him all those things.
Anyway, good. Well, right away, among all the cities in this world, why did you choose Vancouver?
It's a nice question.
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of people have asked me that. Did I know beforehand I was going to Vancouver? No, I had an idea as to what I wanted to track. I wanted to be near the mountains, I wanted to be near the sea because nature is very important to me. I wanted to be in a community which was sustainable or believed in sustainability, organic, vegan. So I live in a community which is actually very beautiful and for my lifestyle and what I've chosen is really lovely. So I think the intent was clear and then Vancouver happened to be that place where all of these things were available. I visited the US when I was young. I didn't want to go back into that busyness. I wanted something which was away from that busyness. So I think that's how Vancouver manifested. I first landed in Toronto. I said, this is not my place. I go a lot by intuition. I landed in Vancouver and I said, this is my place. The minute I landed, I said that. And a friend said, how did you know? I said, I just know. I can't, So yes, but when I look back, it's all these things. That's how it is where I live there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your questions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going into a quick wrap, but before that, we are going to ask you the second question. I don't find Vani anywhere here. So, Vani, Mom, can you move closer to the mugs? Yeah. Yeah. So, here's the second question, the quiz question. So, Arun took the first mug away. So, here's the second question. We lost a Bliss catcher last week in Chennai. I'm not going to ask for his name. I'm going to give his name. Okay. He went by the name Film News Anandi. He was a Bliss catcher in his own right, a legend. We lost another Bliss catcher in the same industry earlier in the month on the 4th of March. Not in Chennai though. Who was he? No?
Do I get a mug? Do I get a mug?
No.
Do I get a mug?
You can't answer. You can't
I
answer.
know the answer.
You can't answer. My guest can't answer. This is for the audience. Somebody like Film News Anandan, let me give you a clue. And what's the answer? Very okay. Let me now give you a clue, a solid clue. Now, fastest finger first. Okay, grab it, people. Okay. So he's not an actor. 1700 films were made in the silent era in India. Only 9 of them, the footage has been redeemed, saved, and archived. This man was responsible for that, and he's called. No, Venki, I can't let you answer that. No, Venki, no.
I can respond.
Yeah, Ram, yeah.
Mr. Nair.
Yes, PK Nair is the answer. PK Nair is the answer. Thank you, Ram. Thank you. So we'll let Ram have this second collection. So you can soon have a collection of mugs, Ram. I don't know if you. So please come forward.
Ram has been a guest.
Last month's guest was Ram.
Bliss Catchers,
Not all by myself. I brought a whole battalion.
A whole family of Bliss catchers was here. So Ram, thank you so much. Thank you. Ram Narayanan.
I don't mind giving this off to somebody else, but I will think.
So should I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay. So you can stay on and give away the thing. Okay, but please don't answer this question also. That's so generous of Ram. Okay. So here is the question. Connect. If you have heard Sujatha Narayanan's story, you should be able to do this in a nano. Connect Amjad Khan with Sujatha Narayanan. Vikram. Yaar sona Vikram. Rajkumar Wango, please take your mug. Yeah. I had that backup question.
Oh, wow. Very smart.
What did he do to you?
Yes, Vikram, Amjad Khan acted in Vikram. Okay, so that's the connection.
I didn't meet him at all.
And you didn't meet him at all. Okay. What a miss.
For Amjad Khan.
For Amjad Khan, exactly, yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now have Parandaman sir, konjam munadi varela. Of course, you beautiful guests get a mug too.
Thank you. Good.
So,
That's very hard.
So it's not that we're giving away
for the
guests.
single ladies.
Yes.
I know.
So please drink your coffee tomorrow from the mug. And,
Yes. My tea.
your tea, your green tea,
Thank you so much.
and enjoy it. And
Thanks.
thank you. And to Maitreyi, please.
Yeah, I know. It's like a trophy.
Yeah, you can hold it. That's all you can just hold this. You can just hold this.
Because you can see what is. You can hold it too. Bliss catcher, Maitreyi. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Okay, I came across, so I'll do a quick wrap and we're closing for the evening. Thank you so much. But just to leave you thinking, there was this very mediocre film that Karan Johar made called Student of the Year. But there was a phenomenal song that made me think in that movie, which later became a movie title by itself. And that song is Ishq Wala Love. Now, what is this? And I became curious, and there is love, and I've heard of Ishq, but what is this Ishq Wala Love? And it's actually the name of a creeper plant called Ashaka. So the creeper kind of envelops itself around an object, around another plant. And Ishq wala love therefore signifies that unison between two plants, in the context of the Persian language, but in the context of the two individuals being portrayed in a film. Ishq wala love is about they're dissolving in each other, they're becoming one. And I think that is the most important thing that I've learned about being in bliss. That you have to have that ishq wala love. You must dissolve, you must become part of being what you love being. You must become part of that. And I think we can be what we love being only when we stop doing and stop trying to become something else. I think that's there lies the secret. So ishq wala love, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your Saturday evening, Easter tomorrow, and watch the India-Australia match tomorrow, and watch India in the finals and take the World Cup. Thank you so much.